Richard Matheson's I Am Legend was sold to the movies. Matheson wrote a screenplay for Hammer Films to produce, but it was deemed unfilmable due to the blood and gore. So it got sold off to cheapo U.S. producer Robert Lippert. To the surprise of no one, the producer of both the prestige The Fly and the cheapo Radar Secret Service made a cheap film version. The book's vampires are repelled by garlic, but other than that, they don't share much with traditional vampires. They're not really ghouls, but the walking dead who seem driven to kill that damned human who's been staking their pals while they sleep. The book's strength was Matheson's taking a gothic horror and updating it to contemporary suburbia. The problem with the movie, in part, is that Italy does a bad impression of California. The architecture is intriguing but wrong. Instead of happening in the viewer's neighborhood, the movie takes place in a brutalist future world. The filming location bleeds the movie of the everyday realism it needs. Casting Vincent Price as an everyman American is one of the battiest casting ideas since Michelle Pfeiffer played a waitress who couldn't get a date. Price's interior monologue plays throughout, moaning about how his life sucks. Instead of a guy who you might know, or might even be, longing for his dead wife and kid, our hero's your creepy uncle who never married, who you don't much like, fending off people who don't like him. Whee! What a fun time at the movies. The listless Franca Betoya is the only other real character, and she sure doesn't seem like an American gal who sparks possibilities with your creepy uncle. The ending isn't bad, and some of the staking and day-to-day details are cool. But the movie lacks energy. Lippert almost made a movie of George R. Stewart's Earth Abides. I can't imagine the travesty he would have made of that great novel, so I'm glad it didn't happen. Orson Welles considered making Earth Abides 2 with Charlton Heston, which leads us to The Omega Man. The screenwriters of this version, Joyce and the late John Corrington, seem to have skimmed an outline of the book and never looked back. The screenplay uses the situation from the book but transfers it from the suburbs to the big city. Instead of vampires, the survivors of a germ warfare plague are just albinos who don't like sunlight. No vampires to suck your blood, no zombies to eat your flesh. They included a black woman as co-star because of black power politics of the time. She's well played by Roseanne Cash. The chemistry between her and Charlton Heston is good. The transformed people are Manson-like family that rejects technology, sort of. They still use catapults and guns when available. There are some good things in the movie. Cash's performance, the empty streets of L.A. shot on Sunday mornings, and Charlton Heston's arrogance and forcefulness as the last man alive. The scene where Neville hears phones ringing, watching a movie alone, picking up a new car. Director Boris Sagal uses locations well, but he and the talented Russell Meddy shoot in a plain 70s TV movie manner. It's hard to believe this was shot by the cinematographer of Touch of Evil. The scenes that come closest to the novel are those of Robert Neville methodically checking off locations as he stakes albinos in their sleep. Because the vampirism isn't part of this story, he seems truly monstrous doing this. Why not just leave the city? And what do these albinos live on? For all the guffaws Neville's crucifixion gets today, it's a legit ending, and it's prepared for. It's just not the book's ending. All we know about the conflict between Neville and the family is that they hate him because he represents the past. Now, this is a blatant use of elements of the book's climax, but without the ending that pulls this all together, the conflict really loses a lot of impact. It's just a horror version of the generation gap, which is so overt in contemporary culture. Seeing a white military man and a militant black woman work through their disagreements and mutual attraction is rare for any 70s movie, so it's a valuable addition to the story. But white man bad has dated as a theme. Well, for this white man it has. Matheson's novel is about a basic human fear, alienation from the rest of humanity. And much of the book shows Neville alone, going crazy from loneliness. It's a grueling yet gripping read because it is unpretentious and feels true. Matheson's stripped-down style, different Ray Bradbury's or Donald Westlake's stripped-down styles, is seemingly plain and draws the reader in, making the horror seem real. Matheson's books read like screenplays, which is why the revamping of the Corringtons, who come off as above this piddly little horror paperback in interviews, are hit and miss, some working, others merely changing things around to little effect. A movie called I Am Legend almost happened with Ridley Scott and Arnold Schwarzenegger, up to the point where storyboards and creature concepts were being drafted. I'm sorry we didn't see Scott's vision of a post-apocalypse world, but Schwarzenegger's casting as a regular guy manages somehow to be even worse than Vincent Price's. It was eventually made with Will Smith in the lead. Set in New York, the visual effects of the empty city are really well done. Smith gets across the loneliness of being the last man alive. It really is one of the very best post-humanity depictions on film. The suspense scenes are well done, especially the scene where he goes into a building to see what's inside. The CGI creatures are poorly done. They break the viewer out of the situation that's been created so carefully. But it's not fatal because Will Smith is so good. Then we get the woman and the kid. Once Smith isn't alone anymore, the movie drags. The character of Anna Montez just doesn't compare well with the women Neville meets in the book and Omega Man. It's almost like the producers lost confidence that their star could hold the viewer's interest. But he did. Bringing in the other two characters doesn't add anything. It just drains tension because we know they won't be killed off. And it also makes us think, well, if there are two others, there must be more. The problems with The Last Man on Earth are location and casting. The problem with Omega Man is deviation from the book's story. The problem with I Am Legend are the treatment of the mutants and the killing of suspense and tension when Neville is rescued by Anna. In the book, the woman wasn't a rescuer. She was a mystery. Could Neville trust her, or was she one of them? Neville wanted companionship, obviously, but he was also wary and conflicted. The tension rises when the woman shows up in the book, because we just don't know what her presence means. The kid, well, I'm prejudiced against the use of kids in these kind of movies. Yes, that includes Newt. The problem with all three adaptations is that they avoid one of the best things about the novel, the ending. The ending that explains the title, I Am Legend. All this time, he's been the normal one, fighting the monsters. But he actually is abnormal, unique in this world populated by mutants. That's the terrifying revelation. The book's ending tells us, finally, Neville is the last of the human race, and the infected mutants are the new humans, the new normal, and they consider Neville a monster. He's not Beowulf, he's Grendel. That's the mind-blowing thing to someone who thought they were reading a Gothic updated to 50s America. Of course the regular guy was the good guy, right? It's a brilliant twist ending, like revealing that Dracula was the good guy, but the movies just can't get there. Last Man almost pulls it off, but it falls flat. It feels like Price's character has just been killed by the monsters, without that mythic Twilight of Man snap. Omega Man tries to replace it with the Messiah crucified ending. It works, but it's kind of cheap. The Will Smith version ends with our feelings for Neville intact. He's a good man on his way to join his wife and daughter in the afterlife. While there is still hope for humanity. Why is this ending so hard for the movies to pull off? Maybe it's because the producers just don't trust the audience to accept such an ending. Well, what do you think? Why can't they make a faithful adaptation of the book?